My name is Alara Quinn, and I'm 29 years old. I met Brennan Cole at a friend's birthday where the candles sputtered out before I realized I was already making a wish on him. He was charming in a thoughtful inventory your preferences kind of way. Oat milk lattes remembered after a single mention, playlists tailored to the weather, that clean laugh people practice without knowing they ever did. We fell fast, the kind of fast you mistake for fate, because it feels like the wind agrees with you. 18 months later, there was a ring on my finger and a house Zillow kept showing me in my sleep. The first red flag didn't wave. It drifted, like a napkin that wouldn't stay down. Gabrielle Cole, Brennan's younger sister, moved in with us for a couple weeks after losing a job she'd been quitting in her head for months. "It's temporary," Brennan said, kissing my temple. 2 weeks later, she had a drawer. 2 months later, half a closet. She ate my meal prep and called it family style, used my laptop because hers was manifesting, and when I asked if she could chip in for utilities, blinked like I'd asked her to sell an organ. "Gabby's finding her footing," Brennan would say, a phrase that sounded compassionate until it started to sound like code. Darlene, their mother, called to say, "We show up for family. That's what we do. You're marrying into a village, honey." That word, village, felt less like support and more like a land claim. We set a date. I booked a small venue with windows that made dusk look choreographed. I asked Diana, my best friend since middle school, to be my maid of honor. We'd survived bad bangs, worse poetry, and an apartment so small the refrigerator doubled as a nightstand. Brennan's smile twitched. "Babe, Gabby should be your maid of honor." "Brennan, that's my choice. She's going to be your sister. It would mean the world to her. It would mean the world to him." He didn't say that part. Instead, he came home with soft words and harder angles. Gabby cried on cue. Darlene called, voice wet with disappointment. "Rejecting our values this early, Alara? That's not a good start." I lasted 2 weeks. I told Diana over soup we didn't finish. She held my gaze, then nodded once, the way surgeons do before they cut. "Fine, but I'll be there for everything anyway." The bachelorette party would have been my safe place, except Brennan decided to plan it. "Because Gabby doesn't know your friends," he said, like that was a kindness. He booked a party bus and club package, handed Gabby one of my credit cards for convenience, and somehow 3 of Gabby's loudest friends materialized, as if conjured by the phrase, "open bar." Early in the night, Diana leaned in, voice a stitch through silk. "Something's off. Gabby keeps saying, 'after we're locked in,' then laughing. And her friends keep asking her what room she wants." "What room?" I asked. Diana's eyebrows lifted. "In your house." I started paying attention. Gabby was already gleaming with liquor, commandeering bottle service with my card, toasting "two family property" like she'd just closed on it. Her friends hyped her, telling her she played it perfect. Played what? There's a particular kind of cold that blooms from the inside out. I felt it then. I also felt my phone in my hand, a small, honest tool. I set it to record and slid it behind the bottles at our table, camera facing the crossfire. If conscience is a slope, I tilted it on purpose. I grabbed the top shelf whiskey and poured too generously into Gabby's glass, then again. "You're the best future sister," I told her. "We're going to be family." By midnight, Gabby had slipped from tipsy to gravity optional. That's when one of her friends, a woman who introduced herself as Blair, with a spelling she was proud of, asked the million-dollar question. "So after the wedding, you're moving into their new place, right?" Gabby cackled. "Bren's got Alara wrapped. We already picked my room." "Second biggest? Mine. Mom's going on the deed too." She winked, a clumsy shudder. "Community property, baby." I stared at her like she'd grown subtitles. "What deed?" Gabby's voice dropped into the conspiratorial registered drunks think is quiet. "Once they're married, it's all family property. Bren's been moving little bits from her account for months. Small enough she doesn't notice. Like $8,000 already. After the wedding, he's gonna push for a baby, ASAP. She'll quit her job, Mom moves in to help. 3-year plan. Then, if it goes south, Alara keeps the house, but Mom's on the deed. We're set either way." She laughed again, delighted by the math of it. Blair whistled. "What if she fights it?" "With what proof?" Gabby smirked. "Bren's documenting everything. Anytime she raises her voice, every argument, emotional abuse case, boom. And he's got that New Year's video of her drunk doing karaoke. She'll look unstable." She tapped her forehead. missed, and nearly poked her eye. Plus, she's got that inheritance coming next year. $200K from Grandma? Bren found the paperwork in her desk. We're going to be paid. I might even start that podcast. My blood slowed, then surged. Desk, paperwork, inheritance. My grandmother's gentle cursive, opened by hands that had no right to it. The room's baseline thumped like a countdown. I could have flipped the table, could have turned the night into a scene people would replay for sport. Instead, I breathed until oxygen agreed to stay. I retrieved my phone when no one looked. 2 hours of video, my screen confirmed, quietly factual in a way people rarely are. Outside, the air tasted like a reprieve. Diana found me beneath a neon sign that pretended to be a moon. Tell me you got that, she said. I met her eyes, steady now, colder than I'd ever felt. I did, I said, all of it. And for the first time since the napkin lifted, the flag finally waved. Not a warning, permission to pull it down. I didn't sleep that night. The recording looped in my head, Gabby's slurred voice melting into Brennan's name, family property echoing like a curse. By sunrise, the fog outside my window matched the one behind my eyes. 3 days until the wedding. 3 days to decide if I was walking down an aisle or detonating one. The first step was proof. I brewed coffee so strong it burned like resolve and opened my laptop. The bank app blinked at me, smug almost. Dozens of small transfers, $50 here, $100 there, tiny enough to be invisible in the blur of automatic payments, but consistent, regular, purposeful. The total, $7,842.67. My stomach turned. The destination and account name was unfamiliar. DLN Holdings. Darlene. It had her initials. I checked my email. A notification I'd missed weeks ago. Policy update confirmed. Joint car insurance. Brennan had added himself without asking. Then another. New user added to your phone plan. Another. Netflix. Hulu. Even my grocery app. A quiet colonization of my life. When I called the bank, the representative's tone carried pity under professionalism. Ms. Quinn, these authorizations were processed through shared login credentials. Shared. He had my passwords. Of course he did. I stared at the engagement ring on my finger. It suddenly looked less like a promise and more like a signature. His, not mine. By noon, I was pacing, my coffee cold. Diana arrived unannounced, holding bagels like ammunition. We're doing this smart, she said, setting them down. You can't just storm in and scream. They'll gaslight you into the ground. I'm not giving them that chance. She nodded, the strategist to my fury. So we build the exit, quiet, legal, clean. Diana's cousin Mateo was a locksmith. Another cousin, Serena, ran a small moving company. Within an hour, plans were forming. Whispered, precise, surgical. The night before the wedding, while Brennan stayed at his mother's for tradition, we'd empty the apartment. Everything I'd bought, paid for, or touched. Even the toilet paper. Especially the toilet paper. You want poetic justice? Diana said, scribbling on a notepad. Let's make their plan implode on camera. I looked up. You mean, exactly. Edit the video. Trim it to just the confession. Then show it when everyone's watching. The reception. Her toast becomes your truth bomb. For the first time in 48 hours, I smiled. It didn't feel nice. It felt necessary. That night, I replayed the recording again. Gabby's voice was an autopsy report for our engagement. Every "we're going to be set" was another incision. At one point, Brennan's name surfaced. Not in affection, but logistics. He's already got her documents. She trusts him too much to check. Once they're married, he's adding mom to the deed. Family trust, remember? My skin prickled. That phrase, family trust, had come up weeks ago when Brennan said, "It's just smart estate planning." I'd laughed then. Now I wanted to scream. I transferred what was left of my savings into a new account under my middle name, Ilara May. Then I changed every password, canceled every shared plan, and locked down my credit. The quiet efficiency of survival. By day 2, Brennan noticed the shift. He texted, "Everything okay, babe? You've been distant. Pre-wedding jitters?" I replied, "Something like that." He sent a selfie. Him and Gabby, shopping for decorations, her head on his shoulder. Caption, "Team Cole, last-minute errands." I almost dropped my phone. That night, while he slept at Darlene's, I recorded my own message. My voice shook, but my words didn't. For anyone who ever gets told to trust love, remember, trust isn't blind. It's proof you've checked the lights first. The next evening, Serena's truck idled outside my apartment at 11:47 p.m. We worked in silence, the kind that holds both urgency and relief. My clothes, my books, my grandmother's letters. The photo of me and Diana from college, our eyes sunburned, our smiles stubborn. By 3 a.m., the place looked like no one had ever loved anyone there. Diana stuck a sticky note on the fridge. Not your property. Before leaving, I opened my laptop one last time and dragged the video file into editing software. I trimmed the dead air, amplified the audio, added a title slide. A toast from the maid of honor. Below it, the date, the venue name, and a small looping champagne animation I found online. Petty? Maybe. Perfect? Absolutely. When it exported, I watched the playback, Gabby's laughter collapsing into a confession, her voice slurring through greed and entitlement. Every frame was another nail, sealing the coffin of my denial. I uploaded a copy to a cloud folder, labeled it insurance. Then I printed screenshots of the transactions, my new account info, and the police report draft Diana helped me write. Outside, dawn crept up pale and thin. 3 days ago, I'd thought I was preparing to walk down an aisle. Now I was preparing to walk out clean. I closed the laptop, exhaled, and whispered to no one. 3 days. Let's make them count. Morning light, the day of the wedding, came sharp and metallic, slicing through the blinds like truth. I'd spent the night before in Diana's guest room, my gown hanging on the door like a ghost of a future that would never happen. Sure you still want to go through with it? Diana asked, pressing a travel mug into my hand. Not the marriage, I said. Marriage, I said. The performance. She nodded, proud and terrified in equal measure. Let's give them the show they rehearsed for. The venue was a picture-perfect lie. Strings of lights, pastel roses, chairs lined like soldiers, all for a war they didn't know was about to start. Darlene was already crying before the ceremony began, clutching a tissue like it was a relic. Gabby floated between tables in a blush dress that could have doubled as entitlement personified. Brennan looked radiant, confident, like the kind of man who thinks he's 10 minutes from securing an empire. When he saw me walk in, his eyes softened, and for one dizzying second, I felt the old muscle memory of love twitch in my chest. Then I remembered the recording, the theft, the smug laughter of family property. The feeling died quietly. The ceremony went smoothly, too smoothly. I recited my vows like reading instructions for someone else's life. When Brennan kissed me, I tasted resolve. Then came the reception, music, champagne, clinking glasses. Gabby had been drinking since noon and was glowing with the kind of confidence only liars get before gravity finds them. Brennan squeezed my hand. She's so excited for her speech, he said. I bet she is. He grinned, not catching the undertone. The lights dimmed slightly. Time for speeches. Gabby wobbled up to the microphone, wine glass in hand. When Brennan told me he found the one, she began, I knew our family was about to get bigger and richer. The crowd laughed politely, missing the malice tucked behind her words. Before she could continue, Diana gave a small nod from the sound booth. I stood. Actually, Gabby, I said, steady as glass, before your toast, I'd like to share something first. A little video from our bachelorette night. Gabby blinked. Oh, what? The projector flared to life. The first frame, bold white letters on black. A toast from the maid of honor. The room chuckled. Gabby smiled uncertainly, until her own voice filled the speakers. Bren's got a Lara wrapped. We already picked my room. Mom's on the deed too. Family property, baby. Laughter stopped. Forks paused midair. The video continued, each confession tumbling out like coins in a counting machine. The theft, the fake abuse setup, the inheritance, the 3-year plan. Gabby's laughter filled the room, slurred but unmistakable. Once she quits her job, we're set. Then silence. A cold, suffocating silence. Brennan's face drained. Darlene rose from her seat, shouting, This is taken out of context. She was drunk. Someone in the back muttered, That's a lot of context. The footage ended, the lights rose. Every eye in the room turned toward me. I picked up the microphone. For anyone wondering, yes, I have the receipts for the stolen money. Yes, I've already filed a police report. And Brennan, Gabby, check your phones. Brennan looked down. A message notification blinked. Photos. Our empty apartment. Caption. Your belongings are in storage unit 47B. First month's paid. After that, not my problem. A ripple of gasps spread through the guests. Gabby lunged toward me, face red. You set us up! I recorded you, I corrected. You set yourselves up. Darlene shrieked, Defamation! We'll sue! I looked at her evenly. Sue me with whose money? Theirs or mine? Laughter broke somewhere near the bar, nervous, then gleeful. The domino effect began. Brennan's friend whispered something, then pulled out his phone, streaming. Gabby's investors. Apparently, she'd been promising people returns from my non-existent business partnership, started closing in on her, demanding explanations. Brennan turned to me, pale. Alara, please, we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You turned love into a business plan. Someone yelled, That's wild. Someone else clapped. Then more laughter, harsh, contagious, unstoppable. I walked off stage, my heels clicking like punctuation. Diana met me by the doors, car keys in hand. Behind us, chaos bloomed. Darlene shouting, Gabby sobbing, Brennan trying to salvage dignity that had drowned 2 minutes ago. One of the caterers unplugged the fairy lights, and the room went dark again. We stepped into the cool night air. For the first time in months, I could breathe without explaining why. As we drove away, Diana whispered, You good? Better than good, I said, watching the venue lights shrink in the rearview mirror. I'm free. Inside, I could still hear the faint echo of the crowd reacting to the final frame of the video, the one I'd added last minute, to family values. Then a blackout. The laughter followed us all the way down the street. The morning after the wedding was quieter than I expected. No explosions, no police at my door, just sunlight cutting across Diana's couch and my phone vibrating like a dying thing. 147 messages. From Brennan, from Gabby, from unknown numbers that all read the same. You ruined our lives. I didn't reply. I brewed coffee instead. Dark, bitter, honest. By noon, Darlene's post hit Facebook. My daughter's marriage was sabotaged by a jealous outsider who twisted her love and destroyed a family. Pray for us. I laughed into my mug. Jealous outsider. Sure. Of what? Theft and fraud? 2 days later, Brennan showed up at my office with roses, a tie slightly undone, tears like rehearsed rain. Alara, please. It wasn't what it looked like. You know I love you. Security escorted him out before he could finish the sentence. The receptionist kept the flowers. That night, the tone shifted. 20 missed calls. Dozens of texts. You'll regret this. You can't destroy a man's reputation like that. My mom's suing you. Then the most audacious one. Be an adult. Pay for the wedding. It's the least you can do. I blocked every number, sent screenshots to my lawyer, and exhaled the way you do when you finally stop mistaking fear for responsibility. A week later, the police called. Theft, identity misuse, fraud. They had enough to open an investigation. Turns out, those small transfers had paper trails, and the cloud file I'd labeled insurance, admissible evidence. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Brennan's ex-girlfriend reached out. Her story was identical. Small withdrawals, fabricated emotional abuse records, a staged breakup that left her with debt. She'd never pressed charges because she lacked proof. But now, with mine, the prosecutor called it a pattern of fraudulent behavior. Court dates were scheduled. Darlene kept up her online crusade, dramatic selfies, captions about losing faith in humanity, and donation links for Gabby's legal defense. They raised $37, mostly from Darlene herself. At the hearing, I wore a plain navy dress and a watch, modest, stainless steel, no diamonds. Brennan arrived in a suit 2 shades too confident. Gabby stumbled in late, hair unbrushed, whispering furiously to her lawyer. The prosecutor played the Bachelorette recording. The courtroom went silent, except for the sound of Gabby's own voice saying, "Once she quits her job, we're set." The judge's expression didn't flicker until the end. Then he sighed. "This," he said, "is either the worst criminal conspiracy or the dumbest soap opera I've ever heard." Verdict. Brennan, 18 months probation, 200 hours community service, restitution of $7,842.67, plus interest. Gabby, 6 months probation for conspiracy to commit fraud, ordered to pay back her investors. Darlene, publicly reprimanded for interfering with proceedings. When court adjourned, Darlene cornered me in the parking lot. "I hope you're happy," she spat. "You destroyed a family." I looked at her, calm. "No, Darlene, your family destroyed itself. I just stopped funding it." She called me heartless. I called an Uber. Weeks passed. Brennan's texts dwindled to nothing. Gabby's business partners came after her for unpaid loans. Word spread that she'd been jumped behind a Wendy's. Nothing fatal, just poetic. Brennan lost his job when HR found out about the investigation. Darlene stopped posting about family values and started sharing inspirational quotes about forgiveness. The universe has a sense of humor. Then came the final insult, a letter from Brennan's lawyer asking if I'd consider writing a character reference for Brooks, no, for Brennan's, future job applications. "After all," the note said, "she gave you 2 years of her life." My lawyer sent back a one-word reply, "No." Months later, the last court payment cleared. My inheritance came through, the one my grandmother meant to help me build a life. I did, just not the one anyone expected. I invested most of it, donated part to a financial literacy program for young women, and bought myself one gift, a new watch. Not luxury, not revenge, just precision, the quiet promise of never losing time to the wrong people again. I met someone, eventually. Caleb, a pediatric nurse with his own apartment, his own bills, his own calm. He listened to my story, shook his head, and said softly, "Guess you had to lose a family to find yourself." We're taking it slow. No joint anything, no shared passwords, just 2 people walking beside each other, not over each other. Sometimes I still replay that wedding video when I can't sleep. The gasp, the silence, the truth landing like thunder. It's not vengeance anymore. It's a reminder. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When their family shows you who they are, run. And if you ever hear the phrase family property, make sure your name isn't the deed they're talking about. Because peace, I've learned, isn't something you inherit. It's something you buy back. One boundary, one receipt, one perfectly timed exit at a time.